Well, does your doctor have a poor bedside manner? If your doctor, is your doctor rude, insensitive, or condescending? Maybe it's time to find another doctor. And Jennifer FitzPatrick says, don't be afraid. You deserve to have a good connection with your doctor. And in her book called Reimagining Customer Service in Healthcare, she addresses the issue straight on. Jennifer is in all these different letters: MSW, LCSW-C, CSP, and founder of Generations Health Education, Inc. It's a full-service healthcare education organization, and the education is that you have to take control. Nice to have you with us, Jennifer.
Oh, thanks for having me back, Mary Jane.
You betcha. Now, seriously, you got to take control, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're the one that's got to be in control and choose your healthcare providers wisely. And I think a lot of people, especially over the last week, we've talked about this. There's just been so many changes and just a very challenging time in healthcare. And it might be time to take inventory and see, are you happy with your provider and are you happy with how things are going?
And I mean, it is a team anymore because when you go to your GP, hopefully you don't have to be, go to somebody else. But more than likely, you do have to check in with other doctors. And so your team has to be, getting along with the other people too. I mean, they got to share the information, right?
Well, I think the first thing is your primary care doc. If you are happy with that individual, and I don't know about in California, but right now in Maryland where I reside, it seems like the whole general practitioner piece has been taken over by nurse practitioners, actually, that we don't even really see a whole lot of physicians doing primary care anymore. And I think that that's okay. That person is supposed to be sort of your central first stop. Mm-hmm. But make sure that that's somebody that you feel comfortable with, that you feel like you can be honest with, that you can share, and somebody that you genuinely feel like cares about you as an individual.
Now, tell me, because I've had nurse practitioners, and to be honest with you, some of the nurse practitioners I had knew more than the doctor, which is...
Sometimes they do, yeah.
It was amazing. But you have to assess that and find that out.
Absolutely.
So what kind of training does a nurse practitioner have over, say, a regular nurse?
Oh, it's a whole other degree that they get. So there's a couple different levels of being a nurse, LPN, RN, but a couple of extra years and more work directly with been doing independent practice. So, again, it's not to say that a doctor is necessarily better, but you just don't seem to be able to find as many physicians practicing. But if you find a good nurse practitioner, it's perfectly fine for them to be, the coordinator of your care, like you said, the specialist.
Got it. So how, I know you address the possibility that your provider, your healthcare provider, is disconnected. What do you mean by disconnected?
Well, Mary Jane, before the pandemic, and this is from Becker's Review, very reputable.
What's Becker's?
Very reputable healthcare literature.
Oh, okay.
There, half of all healthcare executives and doctors would say that they were burned out, and 70% of nurses said they were burned out. This is before the pandemic, and so disconnection, especially over the last few years, working all these crazy hours, especially in the beginning of all the COVID stuff. Oh, you're risking your life and having to wear masks, and all of that has taken a toll. A lot of people have left the healthcare industry entirely. They just retired early, or they said, I'm going to do something else. I just don't want to be in a clinical setting anymore. So I think employers have asked more of healthcare providers, and it's put them in a position for more burnout and what we call compassion fatigue, which is that they start to become numb sometimes to their patients that they work with.
Well, in a way, you don't want to separate too much, but you have to have a separation. I call it compartmentalization.
Yes, correct.
Because otherwise, too overwhelming. Especially with the pandemic, there were a lot of people dying. And
Yeah.
I mean, I realize people die sometimes in the hospital from different situations, but I mean, this was way above that.
Yeah, I think that with the last few years, I mean, it was just a situation ripe for healthcare providers to be doing too much. They were already doing too much, and we already had a shortage, and I talk about that in Reimagining Customer Service in Healthcare. We've had a shortage of docs, nurses, social workers, pharmacists for many, many years. And just recently, my local pharmacy, they cut their hours. They're not open on the weekends anymore. I mean, that's kind of a big deal that they don't have enough pharmacists or pharmacy techs to work. So, in a way, I sort of applaud that, because not that I think what they did is good for the community. I don't think, but at the same time, they're not going to ask their pharmacists to work 12-hour days, 7 days a week. I mean, that to me, that's humane.
So, what can happen? I mean, if a person's burned out, I don't trust their judgment.
You shouldn't. You shouldn't. During burnout, first of all, we're less effective, so we do not do our jobs as well. We simply don't, because we are tired. We have a certain amount of distance from it creates distance between ourselves and our patients. But we're much more likely to make mistakes. So, and you think about not just the actual hospital, working at you might work in, doctor's office. If you're burned out, and just because you got your workload is too heavy, your caseload is too heavy, the odds are you're maybe not taking such good care of yourself at home. Are you exercising? Are you eating healthfully? Are you able to do something, relax when you get back from your job? And all of that is a recipe for mistakes. And medical errors are the third leading cause of death in the United States.
Are you serious?
Really? In Reimagining Customer Service in Healthcare, I talk about that. And this is another reason that I think that there can be sometimes like a disconnect. Because we set up, I think our system has set up health providers. Think about all this, the truth is stranger than fiction. Think about like shows you watch, like a Grey's Anatomy or something like that, and you see the interns sleeping at the hospital, getting woken up in the middle of the night to help with a case. I mean, we set people up to expect to not take care of themselves and to overwork and make the job their entire life. I'd rather have a provider who's gotten some sleep at home and has spent some time relaxing with his or her family, rather than somebody that all they do is their job, because they are going to burn out. And they're going to have that compassion fatigue, Mary Jane, where they have that numbness. They start to distance themselves. And like you said, you want to have a healthy boundary.
Yeah.
But if you sort of start not caring so much about your patient's outcomes, then that's not a good place to be.
Don't be a doctor or a nurse if you don't care. Yeah. And there's no reason for being rude. I mean, we've all had that experience, but, I'm the kind of person that talks up. If somebody's rude, I either get somebody else or you're out of my life. You don't be, because I'm not rude to you. I'm here with a condition. I'm scared as it is. Don't be rude to me.
Well, when I've gone to the doctor, and my practice where I've gone for many years, it's been a revolving door. I actually just changed practices. But one of my problems with them is the person that would take my blood pressure, and I have normal blood pressure, but the person that would take my blood pressure, they didn't make eye contact, they didn't say hello, they didn't introduce themselves. Now, you get a little nervous, you're uncomfortable. It's a vulnerable position.
And guess what? Your blood pressure goes up.
Right. Yeah. But Mary Jane, think about it. When we go to a restaurant, the server introduces themselves.
Yeah.
This is not low. Just say, hi, I'm Jennifer, I'm Mary Jane. How you doing today? Or if you don't have time to listen to the answer of how are you, because sometimes we really don't, they might give us a laundry list, but just saying hello, I'm going to take your blood pressure now. I hope you're having a good day so far.
Yeah.
That's all. I mean, it takes like a brief second, and then what happens is ultimately what the healthcare provider always has to do for me, or at least at the practice I used to go to, they'd have to retake my blood pressure a couple times, and then they'd be like, "Oh yeah, it's normal. You're just calm down."
I call it white coat syndrome.
White coat syndrome.
Yeah.
White coat syndrome. But think about it. If the person was pleasant and polite and built a little bit of rapport for 30 seconds, they wouldn't have to take the blood pressure several times.
Yeah. And also, whether it's a doctor or a nurse or physician, nurse type of thing, don't be condescending to me. If I come in and I say, I've got this pain or I've got this condition, don't act like it's nothing, because it is something to me, And,
well, it's on your mind and you're concerned. And I think the most important thing that providers, and the book that I wrote, Reimagining Customer Service in Healthcare, it's for health executives and providers. In fact, I quote 20 C-suite executives in healthcare about their best practices. And what it is that when somebody comes to see you, it's okay. You are the expert. You've gotten your degrees. You have your license. Mm-hmm. You know more about medicine and nursing, et cetera, than they do. But they know their body better than you do.
Yeah.
They know their physical, mental health, their cognitive health. And so they, today, especially the younger generations, and I'm talking like the younger than the traditionalists, so baby boomers and Generation X and younger, they want a doctor as a partner. They don't. Yeah. I think the older generations, the traditionalists, the GI generation, they were much more likely to just say, "Oh, the doctor knows best. I don't need to question this."
Yeah, and the funny thing about it is that they need to know your whole life anyway. They need to know if you're under stress and about your work and about your family and old doctors used to do that. They used to come to the house, for God's sakes, and they'd know the family. They'd know the family history. But I don't know how a doctor or a nurse practitioner can judge anything of a person if you don't know your lifestyle.
I know, and that's unfortunately why concierge medicine has gotten so big.
Yeah.
Which is such a disappointment because, not to say it's a disappointment, but we have made it so difficult, the system with health insurance companies and the pressure put on providers, that people that are affluent are actually paying extra money so they can have that relationship.
Yeah. And it makes
and
good
it's
sense.
Not fair to people who don't have as much resources.
Absolutely. And if a doctor is giving me the bum's rush, and I'm afraid, some belong to, I don't know what, HMOs, is that what they call them? And they give you a time limit. Excuse me, my life is not a time limit. I'm here because I have something or just I want to find out some general information. And if you don't have time for me to ask questions, I'm out of here and I'll find somebody else. Agreed?
And I think absolutely, we need to hold them accountable. And if you're not finding that, it might be time to look for somebody new.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying I'm going to eat up all your time because I go in with questions written down. So I'm not going to waste your time.
Sure.
It's not going to sit here and jaw about, the game that was last night or anything like that.
Right, sure.
But I'm going to have a list of questions, and I want those questions answered, or I'll find somebody else because I need to have that peace of mind, or else I'll go out and worry about this and make me sicker.
And you're right. And what I think a lot of healthcare organizations don't really realize is that when we're not nice and polite and good listeners, no matter the reason, whether we're burned out or we're having a bad day, whatever the reason is, that you're going to be more likely, first of all, to lose the patient. They're going to go elsewhere.
Right.
They're going to write a bad review. People who are not pleased with their doctor and change or write a bad review, guess what? There was a recent study about Yelp reviews for surgeons. People are writing Yelp reviews for their surgeons, and they're not writing, "Oh, my surgeon messed up my angioplasty." No, they're writing, "My surgeon was rude to me."
Yeah.
Malpractice claims go up when there's impolite behavior, too.
Well, it's funny, too, because there are some surgeons that are excellent. They are fabulous at what they do, but they don't have a whole lot of good bedside manner. But they don't have to be rude. or they don't have to, blow you off. I've only had one surgery, and that's when my appendix came out. And I was up there in years when that happened. I wasn't a kid. But I wanted to ask questions. The surgeon came to me and said, what the procedure will be. And I asked him, how many of these have you done?
Sure.
I want to know.
That's a good question.
And he said, I've done probably around 5,000. I said, okay, I feel good now. The anesthesiologist came over and introduced themselves to me. And I thought, this is nice. And I said, the only request I have is don't put me under too much, because I don't need to stay under too long. And the second thing is be careful of that thing you put down my throat, because I've got implants. Those are expensive. Don't break them.
Right.
And he laughed. And we had a good, conversation as a result of that. And, and I felt better going into the surgery.
Of course you did. And it took, 30 seconds?
Not even that. Yeah.
Yeah, just to say hello and give a little smile. And the thing about it, you're right, there are some people that bedside manner doesn't come naturally to.
No.
But here's the great news. It can be, and I'm not saying somebody can go from, no bedside manner to a plus, but can they get to a B?
Yeah.
They can be trained. Mm-hmm. They can get coaching. I mean, those service. I mean, in fact, my company provides that. GenerationsHealth.com. We provide that type of help for organizations. So it's all about the little things that we can do. You can be the most, let's say, anything, most wonderfully rated doctor's office, hospital, assisted living, whatever it is. And if you lose that person mm-hmm. by not answering a question or just, rolling your eyes, I mean, it really those little things make such a difference in the experience of the patient.
Sure. And the healing. I mean, if you know somebody cares about you and that they're going to be there for you, it gives you that boost, like, I'm going to be okay.
It's funny because I was saying I interviewed 20 C-suite execs for Reimagining Customer Service in Healthcare, and Dr. Arif Kamal, he is the Chief Patient Officer at the American Cancer Society, and he is a professor at Duke University Medical School. Mm-hmm. And one of the things he talks about in my interview with him in the book is the concept of he has to train his residents, hey, you need to be mindful of how you're speaking to the patient and choosing your words. And he said he's had them come back at him and say, well, I'm their doctor. Of course they know I care about them.
No.
And Dr. Kamal says, don't assume that they know that. They don't necessarily know that unless you actually explicitly say, hey, I'm your doctor. I care about you. I want to hear how your experience has been.
Yeah. Matter of fact, last year I actually broke my arm and went to a doctor, and when I went through the emergency and all that was fine because you're kind of bum rushing through and just trying to get to the other side to find out what I have to do. But the doctor that I went to after that was exactly what you're talking about, the good doctor. He sat and talked with you, and how you doing. And can you do a little bit more now than you did before? And didn't rush you. I love that doctor. I said, why can't more doctors be like you who cares? He said, he's also a teaching doctor in addition to being, mm-hmm. I call him my bone doctor, but he's more than that, obviously. But he said, I try to teach the young interns that are coming in to me, you've got to care about those people. You've got to get to know them. Don't be rude to. I mean, all the things that you said don't do. He tells them, don't do it. Yeah. People need you. You're in a situation where these people are afraid. They don't know what's going on. They're trying to understand and get it all. And he said, but it's very difficult because they don't think they have to do that.
Well, I think sometimes it's looked at as, okay, I'm here for the science, but that being polite and being caring, it's part of the art.
Thank you.
Although there is data to support that when a patient perceives their doctor is compassionate, that they do have better clinical outcomes.
Yeah, I believe that. I truly do believe that. Now, do you have a website?
Absolutely. Reimagining Customer Service in Healthcare.com or Generations with a J, Generations Gen .com.
And where's the book available?
Everywhere, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, independent bookstores. You can get it anywhere books are sold.
Now, I know you wrote the book for, professionals.
Cruising Through Caregiving, yes.
But seriously, people should read this book. I mean,
thank you.
Because you're telling the professionals what to do, then it's good for me to know that's what I should expect from my professional.
Right. Well, it's funny because in Cruising Through Caregiving, I'm talking to the family caregiver, and in Reimagining Customer Service, I'm talking to the healthcare executive and the healthcare provider.
Excellent. Fantastic. As
Thank
always,
you, Mary
Jennifer,
Jane.
well, keep up the good work because there are still a few out there that you want to get to. Okay?
Quite a few. Thank you for your time. Have a wonderful weekend.
You too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Once again, that's Jennifer FitzPatrick. Her latest book is Reimagining. I'll get it right one of these times. Reimagining Customer Service in Healthcare.